25 podiums, 11 wins, and even 3 retirements apiece. Only 24 points separate Toprak Razgatlioglu and Jonathan Rea. We haven't had a championship fight this close ahead of the final 2 rounds since 2012, and we all remember that season was decided by just half a point. 6 races to go in 2021, and you wouldn't bet against it going down to the wire. It's time to tango in San Juan. Race 1 of the 2021 Motul Argentinian round goes lights out. Brilliant start from Toprak Razgatlioglu from second. Great start as well from the second row of the grid from Jonathan Rea. Axel Bassani swallowed up in the run down to turn 1. Rea slides his way into the first turn. Scott Redding falls. Scott Redding falls from second position. Rea is up into P2. We ride on board with Scott Redding as he tumbles his way to the runoff area at the first bend from pole position.
Yeah, it's easy to have an instant into turn 1 around this track, and obviously with Jonathan Rea coming down the inside, maybe that just distracted Scott Redding through there. Kawasaki second and third, but it's Toprak out in front by half a second at the early stages.
Razgatlioglu, Rea, Lowe's, Locatelli, Rinaldi just being picked off by Axel Bassani. Bassani brave down the inside of turn 6. That's going to leave Rinaldi well and truly offline. Michael van der Mark comes through as well for 6th position. Jonathan Rea is beginning to stalk Toprak Razgatlioglu. Won't allow the number 54 Yamaha to escape at the head of the field. It's an unusual livery for Jonathan Rea, but it's the same situation he's faced several times already in 2021, trying to hunt down Razgatlioglu out in front. Alex Lowe's battling Andrea Locatelli for 3rd position. We saw this on several occasions before Lowe's was unfortunately injured at the Catalunya round. Locatelli's going to be separated from Lowe's here by Axel Bassani, who comes down the inside like a bowling ball and gets the strike. He's through for 4th position. Yeah,
good move there by Bassani. This is Scott Redding. We saw him crash at lap 1 into turn 1, and he's got a lot of work to do to try and make his way up through the field.
I'm afraid that's championship over.
Jonathan Rea makes a really quick start on the number 1 Kawasaki, dives down the inside, and well, there's no contact between them. Just looks like Scott loses that on his own.
Bad news for Scott Redding, who has completed more racing laps than anyone else this season. He's only retired from 1 race out of the 32, and he was set to capitalise on the attrition between Rea and Razgatlioglu, but his own incident, his own fall here, is going to leave him even further back in the championship standings, and all the good work and all the benefit of the last 2 rounds wiped out in this one fall.
Yeah, you can see there Redding knows that Jonathan Rea is there alongside him. He's trying to push on just to hold on to that second spot, and then just loses that bike.
Alvaro Bautista in the gravel trap was scrapping his way towards the top 10 positions, just outside the top 10 I think he was before he went down.
Yeah, and for Bautista, it looks like that's down at turn 3 or turn 4. It looks like we've got another rider off in the background there, maybe Isaac Vinales, and so it is showing just how tricky it is out there for the riders. You can see here Axel Bassani on the Ducati doing a really good job at this stage, closing up on Alex Lowe's now as well, and Bassani closing up on a podium spot. The Ducati does work well around this track. We saw in the free practice sessions 4 Ducatis inside the top 7. Obviously we saw Bassani and Redding on the front row of the grid as well.
Battle at this stage is for 3rd position, Steve. Axel Bassani's got the gap down to 0.2 of a second, made up a couple of tenths halfway through lap 3, and Bassani's looking menacing here, already looking to the inside of Alex Lowe's, trying to catch him by surprise. A completely different racing line as they headed through turn 5. Lowe's manages to cover the line into turn 6. Now it's all about the acceleration off turn 7, and that's where the Ducati revels. An opportunity for Axel Bassani, already top independent rider in this race, and comfortably so up in P4, to take 3rd and a provisional podium place away from Alex Lowe's. Beautiful move that from Axel Bassani.
Scott Redding's going to be able to make the move on Chris Ponson, able to make it even earlier on the run down in towards 6 and 7.
Gerloff certainly looks as though he's ready to menace on the tail here of Eugene Laverty. Laverty runs the standard racing line. Gerloff gets combative, elbows out to move Laverty out of the way. Laverty may also be picked off here by Leon Haslam. The speed of that Honda and the better racing line through turn 7 with Laverty offline opens up the door for a race now. A drag race down towards turn 8, and it looks as though Haslam is going to get alongside Eugene Laverty. That's bad news for the Irishman, and pretty unfortunate as well. New personal best lap from Garrett Gerloff on his way to clearing Eugene Laverty and Leon Haslam. This is Scott Redding, the number 45 Ducati, through on Cota d'Azane. That's for 14th position. So Redding was already through on Mikado to move into the points. He's now gained another place. It's going to be 2 championship points for 14th. I suspect more positions will fall. Michael van der Mark through on Andrea Locatelli for 6th position. May very soon be Michael Ruben Rinaldi through on Alex Lowe's as well. Locatelli's going to try and respond. Rinaldi is through on Lowe's. So Rinaldi up into 4th position. They're both gaining on Axel Bassani as well. So we've got a great fight going on for 3rd position. This is the scrap for 6th place as well. Van der Mark bold on Locatelli. He wasn't going to give up an opportunity to fight like that, was he?
Yeah, no chance. Michael van der Mark, always one of the hard riders in World SBK, and he wanted to make sure he was keeping that track position.
The only thing that Alex Lowe's can hope for is that Bassani holds Rinaldi up long enough to bring himself back into play for a top 3 finish. Still only 7/10 of a second, covering 3rd to 5th. Lowe's beginning to drop away from them ever so slightly. Van der Mark's built half a second over Locatelli. Gerloff's got 2.5 seconds to Haslam. Laverty's dropped back now from the number 91 Honda. So it's all about this race for 3rd position. The final step on the podium. Bassani's done it in the wet but never in the dry. Michael Ruben Rinaldi looking to make it a 4th different venue this season at which he's been on the podium. And he slides on through on Axel Bassani as they head towards turn 8. Ducati versus Ducati, but it's the number 21, the factory rider, who's through into the podium place. Razgat Leoglu leads then with 7 laps remaining, 4.4 seconds his advantage. Here comes Scott Redding on the tail of Chaz Davies. This is for 12th. Davies hasn't really been able to make up the ground on Cavalieri, who's still bottled up by Laverty, and Redding should be looking at making 3 passes in the next couple of laps, I suspect. Cavalieri still close to the tail of Laverty. Here's the Ducati versus Ducati battle as we get towards turn 1 at the start of lap 15. Redding now moves through down the inside into turn 1 in straightforward fashion on Chaz Davies, and Redding has been significantly faster, a second a lap faster than Chaz Davies last time around, so breezes through into 12th place. What Chaz Davies needs to do now is follow as closely to Scott Redding as possible, because Redding is going to open doors on his way through on Cavalieri and Laverty. Cavalieri almost through on Laverty there. Chaz Davies under some pressure from Tito Rabat behind for 13th position. We're riding on board now with Scott Redding as Cavalieri again thinks about the move on the inside of Eugene Laverty at the end of the back straight. Not quite enough grunt in that Barney Ducati to make the pass. Oh, but it's bowled into turn 9. Laverty's going to try the switchback. Redding with the perfect view of it as Laverty recovers the position. Cavalieri caught offline, hasn't got the speed. Redding's going to come through on Cavalieri, not quite close enough to pick off Eugene Laverty as well. It's a good recovery from Scott Redding. No such problem for Scott Redding, who's lining up something here on Eugene Laverty. Slightly wider entry should give him a decent run, and it should be into turn 1 here that Scott Redding makes his pass on Eugene Laverty then for 10th position. Lap 16 of 21. Redding, who fell on the opening turn, has recovered from the very back of the field to move inside the top 10, showing the pace and showing what might have been. And Gerloff now only half a second behind Locatelli, so should be swiftly onto his tail for 7th. Whether he starts to have nightmares when he gets there, thinking about Assen and friendly fire is another matter. But Gerloff has got a significant pace advantage as Alex Lowe's makes a move from way back there on Axel Bassani. He's not been able to get the job done in towards turn 8. Now it's up to Bassani to get the acceleration down the long 1 kilometre back straight here in San Juan and recover that 4th position. Lowe's with a good move, catches Bassani by surprise. There's going to be no surprise if Bassani comes sweeping back through down the inside of Lowe's into turn 8, but it's an excellent effort that from Alex Lowe's to choose some different area of the circuit to make that pass, and now finally he's clear for 4th.
Good effort from Lowe's. Too much time to make up on Michael Ruben Rinaldi at this stage, obviously enough, but for him to be able to come away with a top 5 finish in 4th position would be a good result. Scott Redding trying to make his move now on Leon Haslam as well. That's the battle for 9th.
Just noticed that Samuele Cavalieri has run off the circuit, and that's a real shame for the Barney Ducati man, because it's allowed Tito Rabat, Eugene Laverty and Chaz Davies through for 11th, 12th and 13th respectively. Cavalieri is still set to score, but it will only be 14th position for him. Meanwhile, up at the head of the field, Toprak Razgatlioglu justifying the pace we've seen from him all weekend so far. It's going to be another crucial victory in the context of his World Championship. Razgatlioglu for his first victory since race 1 in Portimao. It's been a very short barren spell of only 2 races, but Toprak is back on top after fighting off Jonathan Rea in the early stages. 5 seconds the winning margin over the reigning world champion to consolidate his championship lead.
Bad news for Alex Lowe's fans. Lowe's was declared unfit after the Superpole race. He'll take no further part in the rest of the Argentinian round.
2 big stories from this morning's Superpole race. The championship fight will go to Indonesia, and it will do so with Toprak Razgatlioglu as the series leader, regardless of what happens here. Razgatlioglu is 34 points up with 87 points still available, but more importantly than that, he has looked untouchable. Race 2 of the 2021 Motul Argentinian round gets underway. Good start again from Jonathan Rea. Just as he's made in the opening 2 races of this weekend, he charges down the inside of Scott Redding and relieves him of 2nd place. Also away with decent alacrity there is Axel Bassani, defending 4th position against Michael van der Mark. It's Toprak Razgatlioglu who leads them through to the end of the first sector, pursued by Jonathan Rea and pretty closely as well. Redding in 3rd position, Bassani, then it's the first of the BMWs, Locatelli 6th, Haslam, Rinaldi, Nazane with a great start, and Garrett Gerloff rounding out your top 10. Jonathan Rea wants to make this move early. He's directly on the tail of Razgatlioglu as they come through turn 6 and 7. Rea will try to get the run coming down the back straight. It's 1 kilometre now in length for Rea to try and get the slipstream advantage on Toprak Razgatlioglu. He's going to have to be very bold into turn 8 if he wants to pass Mr. Razgatlioglu, who's a demon on the brakes, and Toprak defends the position successfully, as perhaps you might have expected. But Razgatlioglu goes wide. Razgatlioglu is wide. Jonathan Rea finds his way past as they come through turn 9. Tries almost to open up space for Scott Redding to come through as well. Toprak will try to respond into turn 10. Here we go again between the top 2 in the World Championship. Rea tries to go the long way round, thinks about throwing it up the inside into turn 11. Now it's single file at the end of the 3rd sector and the start of the 4th.
Yeah, and Rea's got it all to lose. That's why we saw him not really lean in on Toprak through turn 10 there, but a really good battle here in the opening lap for Jonathan Rea. Right there with Toprak trying to make a move into these last couple of corners.
Bit of a moment there for Toprak by the looks of it as well, coming through turns 13 and 14. Razgatlioglu is being rattled here by Jonathan Rea. This is what the reigning world champion needs to do. Try and perturb Razgatlioglu early on, but Rea's about to have a problem on his hands, which is the Ducati power in towards turn 1. Scott Redding now is the latest rider to occupy 2nd position. Can he get it stopped? He's got the inside line as they now make their way through the right-hander. Big moment though for Scott Redding. That's enough for Jonathan Rea to come through, and Axel Bassani is also in the mix, looking to try and get on terms with this podium trio.
So you can see Axel Bassani making the move down into 6th on Scott Redding. The last thing Redding needs is more riders around them.
Big move that from Bassani, and Redding will have seen that coming a way off, but Bassani was able to get it stopped through 6 and 7, so defends the place. At the head of the field, it's Razgatlioglu snaking his way down the back straight, trying to break the slipstream from Jonathan Rea, but you can see how much earlier Rea is forced to be on the brakes, and again Razgatlioglu's gone deep through turn 8, and again Jonathan Rea takes the lead. Opportunity for Razgatlioglu in towards turn 10. They're side by side again, the 2 race leaders into the 10th turn on lap number 3. Toprak has got it stopped. Rea thought he wasn't going to, went for the cutback. Rea thought about the move then into turn 11. Completely different lines from the 2 of them. Now the key for Rea is not to be picked off by either of the 2 Ducati men behind. Rea sweeps across, Razgatlioglu leaves the door open, Jonathan Rea hits the front, and Scott Redding is through on Axel Bassani as well. Brilliant couple of corners of racing once again. Can Razgatlioglu recover the position now? In towards turn 8 on lap number 4. Super stuff. And Redding also thinking about a move on Razgatlioglu. And Rea is going to lose 2 positions in one go. Toprak finds his way through in the slipstream. Redding then capitalises on the inside ground to move past, and Rea is offline, coming off turn 9, so he's not going to be able to make any of the positions back into turn 10, and he's also going to be vulnerable here to Axel Bassani. Disastrous couple of sectors for Jonathan Rea. coming off turn 7, and Redding has got a brilliant run here on Razgatlioglu, and Ray is waiting in the wings. He needs to try and capitalise. He's not able to do so though. Bassani not able to cut. Oh yes, he is. Bassani's come through on Ray. Ray is relegated to 4th position. So just as Razgatlioglu loses a place, so too does Jonathan Ray, and Jonathan Ray fighting back now on Axel Bassani for B3.
Yeah, really good riding there by Ray. Set that up to get that inside line down in towards 8 and 9. You can see for Toprak, he's closed up on Redding. Redding well wide.
Redding very, very wide indeed as they come through turn 10, and both Toprak, Razgatlioglu and Jonathan Ray have come through. This top 4 positions have been swapping and changing monotonously throughout. Fantastic stuff in race 2 here in San Juan. Jonathan Ray set to lose another 5, desperate to make that 10-point swing and get through.
Yeah, Ray's still using those slingshot lines, and he's set up a move on Razgatlioglu now.
Razgatlioglu a little bit off the line. Jonathan Ray comes through up the inside through turn 7. Razgatlioglu with an opportunity to respond in towards turn 8. These two have already changed positions at least half a dozen times. Watch out for Scott Redding as well. Razgatlioglu moves to the inside, and he manages to defend successfully into turn 8 this time around. Will he run wide? No, he holds it on the racing line, and Jonathan Ray will live to fight another day in P2. Scott Redding coming towards Jonathan Ray as they head into lap 9. Ray has left the door wide open. He didn't get the best of runs in the end coming off turn 17, and Redding has punished him for it. So the 45 Ducati is now the next man to have a go at the tail of Razgatlioglu. And Redding does look as though he is significantly faster than Toprak at this stage, almost having to back off as they came through turn 6 and 7. Toprak just about running a tight enough line to keep the number 45 at bay. Redding then sweeping into the slipstream as they come down the back straight, 1 kilometre to try and make a drag race in towards turn 8. Razgatlioglu breaks that slipstream. Redding is going to be bold on the brakes, but Redding surely won't get it stopped. Razgatlioglu comes through, barges Redding out of the way. Ray is not close enough to capitalise, remains in 3rd. Redding though is the fastest of this trio at present. Remember, there are some other riders in this race. Bassani 4th, Vandermark 5th, Rinaldi 6th, Locatelli 7th. Forget about them. Razgatlioglu is picked off by Scott Redding. He charges through in towards turn 7. And now this is his opportunity to unleash the power of Bologna down the back straight in towards turn 8. Razgatlioglu in the slipstream. Jonathan Ray with a double slipstream. Here goes Ray on Razgatlioglu. But look when we ride on board at Toprak's ability to be that little bit deeper on the brakes. And that's what continuously enables him to hold on from Ray. And the two of them now are fighting for second. Riding on board with Razgatlioglu, looking back at Ray. Bassani dropping back away from these two. 1.2 seconds now, the gap to 4th position. So a brief scare in the battle for the podium places for Jonathan Ray. Looks to be over for now at least, and he's able to go side by side with Razgatlioglu, who defends the racing line. Ray cuts back to the inside. They may even touch. Toprak gives Ray a wide berth as they come through turn 7. He knows that he'll have plenty of opportunities to try and take this position back. Razgatlioglu looks to be struggling at this stage, and he's going to have a go at Jonathan Ray for 2nd position in towards turn 8. If he gets it done, oh, he will get it done, and he'll get it done in a way that I don't think Jonathan Ray will appreciate. Where does Jonathan Ray make his move though? Because Toprak is so strong, particularly in towards turn 8, in towards turn 1. Might be in towards turn 1 at the start here of lap 16 that Ray attempts to make a pass on Razgatlioglu yet again. This time they're totally alongside. Will this time Jonathan Ray be able to get it stopped? He's run a little bit deeper. It gives him the inside line for turn 2. He makes sure that he covers off Razgatlioglu, who's going to try and go the long way round and think about a move through turns 4 and 5. We ride on board with Razgatlioglu, and that would have probably been even closer if we'd watched it from the outboard angle, but just riding on board it gave you a sensational indication of the extent to which these riders are within millimetres of one another, and if they're not very careful indeed, they could both throw away the podium positions to Axel Bassani, who over the course of that first sector alone has made up 6/10 of a second to bring himself back in play. Ray now has 2nd. Razgatlioglu may be able to recover in towards turn 8. I don't think he's quite close enough, and Bassani is menacing on the tail of the pair of them. Same problem for Rinaldi on Bassani. I think they're both going to find themselves just a little bit too far behind in towards the final two sectors. Turn 15 might be a last opportunity for either of those two. But again, Rinaldi's got another sector without making any further progress. I think that has settled this one down. Redding, Ray, Razgatlioglu, your podium trio as they enter the final sector for the final time. The 2021 Motul Argentinian round will not be a first hat-trick for Toprak Razgatlioglu because Scott Redding wins race 2 of the 2021 Motul Argentinian round. His first victory since race 1 of the Catalunya round, round 9 of this 12 so far completed rounds this season. Sensational performance from Redding. Had to do it the hard way, passing the top 2 men in the World Championship. It's Jonathan Ray who takes second after a bar-banging encounter over 21 laps throughout nose to tail with Toprak Razgatlioglu.
That was a really, really great ride from Bassani.